All right.
Okay, this is the second segment of Urban Geography 4850, Tennessee State University. This is Dr. David A. Paget. Today is May 4th, 2021, and we're going to continue with our lecture from the National Park Service. This is Liz Smith-Inser, who is describing the Africatown community and the Africatown Connections Blueway project.
Hello. Hello again. Welcome back. Okay, now it's time for me to share my screen again. Let's see where we are. Let's see if this works well. Okay, this is where we were. And then let's see if I'm in presentation mode here. All right. Okay. Right now, I think you're seeing a black screen. So before I press go on all these different things, I just want to remind y'all over the past, half hour or so, I gave you a quick introduction to the National Park Service. We usually think of it as big national parks, but we also have many programs within the National Park Service. And there's a great need for community planners, GIS professionals, landscape architects. So I encourage all of you all to just think about that. And as jobs come across my email, I'm going to start funneling them to Dr. Paget, because I do happen to know that there is a need, there's an opening need for a specific GIS type person in our Washington support office from the program that I work for. And that type of person would be sort of mapping all of the thousands of different projects that the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program works on. So that's sort of a side note. We talked about the National Park Service. I gave you a little history, more history about Africatown and the connection to the slave ship Catilda. And so now I wanted to bring it into sort of modern terms. I feel like this next slide gives you an idea of what some of the areas in Alabama look like. It's lush and green. And this is probably what it looked like when the kidnapped Africans actually stepped foot onto dry land after their months and months long passage journey. It might even be a little scary. Lots of animals, lots of wild animals, insects, but lots of fish, really lush. In a lot of the stories, I just got to show y'all this because I love this photo so much. There is a lot of talk about peach trees in Africatown. I don't know if any exist anymore, but when Joe gets back on, or over the next few weeks, if between he and Anderson, we talk a lot about the natural fruits and things that were available to people back in the late 1800s that don't exist today. Another thing that Joe has talked about a lot is when he'd get out of school, and I still see these in southern Mississippi where I live, like the dewberries or the blackberries. In Africatown area, it was lush with berries and the nut trees. It was just lush with lots of good stuff. You know, it was wonderful. I imagine it was a wonderful place to explore. Now, this is sort of what it looks like. And I needed to show you the contrast of there is a lot of industry. There's been a lot of pollution. The original inhabitants and neighborhood, the people that live in the community of Africatown have been disconnected from the waterways. Just beyond what you see in these photos is the river, Mobile River and Mobile Bay, just beyond this place. But we can't see or connect to it because now we're separated from it. There's no access to it. And so the folks in the Africatown area had this idea of, well, let's get reconnected to these waterways. And how do we do that? So my role in the group has been facilitating community meetings and getting folks to tell me their stories, what's important. And so this looks like just a list of things to you right now. But here, I'll show you a map. These things are places that connect these two circles. And what's important about these two circles, and you gotta listen carefully because it gets a little confusing. And as you dig into information about Africatown, you're gonna ask this question. The circle down towards the bottom right-hand of your slide is the historical Africatown neighborhoods. And the Mobile River is the blue area, the Blue River area off to the right-hand side of that. The circle that's up in the upper left-hand corner is generally an area called Africatown State Park. Now, when people hear of Africatown State Park must be managed by the state of Alabama. It's not. And currently, Africatown State Park is a patch of woods. It hasn't been developed at all, about 140 acres, that sits right on Chickasaw Creek. And so when I began working in the community, as you all might ask, wait a minute, what's Africatown State Park and how is that connected to those historical neighborhoods called Africatown? What's going on? I don't know the whole detailed history of Africatown State Park, but what I do know is that a number of years ago, the city of Pritchard was promised an exchange to, who knows, powers that be. If you give us this land along a waterway, then we'll give you this 140 acres and you can call it Africatown State Park. That's a whole nother story to research, and I don't know the ins and outs of that. But the significance here is if there's a place called Africatown State Park and a place called Africatown, the community decided that they needed to be connected. They're a shared story. And so what we decided was the best way to connect those was through the waterways. And so as you look on this map, gosh, I don't know if, I'll make sure that you may have this map and Dr. Paget can share it with you. And this also may be small for you all to see on your screen, but the blue creek that connects the two is Chickasaw Creek. And those points of interest lie between these two blue circles. And this is what you all will be helping us create some sort of story map that tells the story of each point of interest along Africatown Connections Blueway. And then within this little map here, you'll see that there's a legend of all the points of interest. There's 14 points of interest so far. Okay, let's keep going here. Let's see. It may be important for you all to know that there are many, many participants in this Blueway project. And you're welcome to become part of the email list that I have and attend the Africatown Connections Blueway planning team meetings. We do them about once a month. Really, it's open to everyone. The email list that I send invites to is over 200 folks. So if you're interested, I was going to say maybe you could put your email in the chat. Or maybe what we could do is let Dr. Paget know, and then he could send me a consolidated email, with all of your emails if you're interested. And that's just something that you'd get notices of when we have Zoom meetings and when we do different Blueway celebrations. I think as you work on this project, you might be interested in keeping track of it even after this class. So here's an idea of some of the community partners. The blue logo is of the Africatown, of the Mobile County Training School, Fair Housing. There's a group, an environmental group called the Mobile let's see, MEJAC, Mobile Environmental Justice Action Committee, and other partners that have helped us, many project partners. What's also important to know is this Blueway involves 4 jurisdictions, and this has been tricky for all of us on the planning team. It involves the city of Chickasaw, the city of Mobile, the city of Pritchard, and then Mobile County. And boy, is it tricky getting all these folks to agree to work together on a single project, right? They have lots going on within their own jurisdictions. But the Rivers and Trails program within the National Park Service, we do a lot of that. We look at big picture, we help folks to work together on big picture projects. And so we're excited to be working on this. Now, what's really cool, and I might encourage you all, and Dr. Paget will figure out how we can connect y'all to some of these folks. These logos represent some of the national organizations, and there's just so many to name, but you know, we've been working with the Smithsonian Institute. I don't see the National Geographic logo on here. The Slave Wrecks Project, an internationally important project supported by the Smithsonian Institute. Oberlin College has been a great connection, and what's kind of fun is you all as college students in Tennessee, perhaps you could coordinate or connect with college students in Ohio at Oberlin or Mississippi State University's School of Landscape Architecture. Like, we want to help you build your network so that as you go out into the world after you graduate, and all the things that you all do, you'll have a network of folks that you can tap into. Now you've met me, and you could always call me or email and say, hey, got some ideas about this, or what do you know about that? Now you've been introduced to someone at the National Park Service. And another thing before I leave this slide, I want to highlight, see that National Park Service arrowhead, and then there's the diving flag. That I'm just curious to know, does anyone scuba dive? And I can't see you, so if you do, take yourself on mute and just say, oh yeah, I have, or I'm interested, or no, or just might be silent. Like, does anyone scuba dive out there? Curious. Okay, so within the National Park Service, we have a program called the Submerged Resources Center. And these folks, the only thing they do, they travel around the world. They travel from national park to national park, and they look at submerged resources, sunken ships, flooded communities. So they dive into rivers and lakes and oceans. And so it's just a very interesting part of the National Park Service that partners with the Slave Wrecks Project to research these submerged resources. So if you have any interest in those sorts of things, I would say if you're not a scuba diver now, it's never too late. And there's a program that Africatown partners are working with the Slave Wrecks Project and a group called Diving with a Purpose to train young people to first swim, if you don't know how to swim, and then scuba dive. So if you have any interest in that, ask us about it and we'll connect you with that program. It's kind of a really neat thing. And you could perhaps, I don't know, dive on the slave ship Catilda. It's very muddy water. It's a different type of research there. But that's a really interesting thing. All right, let's kind of keep myself moving here. The next few slides are more about how I work with communities and the process of working with communities and what's important to the Rivers and Trails program. And I like to share these slides. They might not seem connected to our topic of GIS, our topic of the historical neighborhoods of Africatown. But what's important is how we work together in a collaborative way. And so I really think it's important that we think about some of these things that I'm going to share in just the next few slides. And I'd like to ask you all, take yourselves off mute. You can keep your cameras off because I can't really see you anyways. But I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. This is just about collaboration, and it defined why we think that this is so important from a National Park Service standpoint. And I don't know, the next thing, it might not be appropriate, but I like to have this slide about, you know, how important communication is. These guys are in a, you know, the doctors, if they're communicating, it's a huge issue. But I think if we don't communicate on many different levels, it's a huge issue. Okay, take yourselves off mute and kind of holler out, tell me what you see. Does anyone see anything weird here?
I see a bowl.
A bowl. Oh, okay, somebody sees a bowl. Right on. Okay.
Yeah, it's cross-eyed.
Cross-eyed. Yeah. Okay.
Cow face.
Cow face. Yes. Good. Anything else?
And the number of his cow is 7354.
Yes. Oh, right. And there's one in the back. That's right. Very good. Okay. So I simply show this slide because I want to bring up conversation about how our brains zoom in on different things immediately. And there's some kind of just weird stuff going on. Yes, it is a cow. It's got horns. There's a couple of cows in the background. That's true. When you look at the front of the cow's face, some people see a vase, a white vase. Other people see profiles. The black color of the cow's face, some people actually see profiles looking at one another. Other people just see the white face. You know, it's just something that to remind us that we are seeing different things all the time. And we're a small group of people. I just want to do one more here. Have you guys seen this? Have y'all seen this? Another kind of holler out thing. What do y'all see here?
Oh, a frog.
Somebody said, I think you said a frog.
Yeah.
We see a frog. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, here we go. Now what do you see?
A horse face.
A horse, right? Okay, I'm back to the other one. It's the exact same photo thing. I just flipped it. And so this is simply just to show folks that, you know, as you go about your business in school and in life, and just, you know, we all go about our business on this earth that we walk on here. You know, how something appears is it's always a matter of perspective. Each one of us have very different perspectives that are developed through many different life things that happen to us, and that's okay. And that's all right. But what's important is that as we go about our business, we realize, there are many different perspectives out there. And it's helped me not to jump to conclusions. Because working, you know, in the federal government, I'm a bureaucrat and all that. Sometimes I'm very biased. Things need to work a certain way, and this is how it should be. And I myself had to learn, gosh, I'm looking at it from this one perspective, and I see a cube. I only see a square. It's a square. And you're right, it is a square. But if I just shifted a little bit or allowed my perspective to shift, by golly, that very same thing is seen as a circle. And so anyways, that was just a sort of a little side note that I like to share with groups that I speak with, because it's important from the perspective of the National Park Service that we all have a wide perspective and we stay open to ideas and other folks' points of view. Okay, here we jump into the Blue Way itself. This is a perspective, a very real perspective. We took this photo. This looks out onto the Mobile River. And this sort of thing happens all the time on this Blue Way project. Folks use the river to fish, to recreate, enjoy. And it's beautiful to spend time out there. What you're looking at also is what we call an Africatown Bridge. These folks are under one of the pillars of Africatown Bridge. So as you go about your different mapping, you'll probably see this, but this is what it looks like. And I hope one day you'll get to visit it in person. And so let me see here. This is just a reminder about where we are. Those folks that were fishing in the photo we just saw are in the blue circle towards the bottom right-hand side of the frame, just to give you an idea where they are. Lower frame right up against the river. I see that I have a few slides that probably give a little bit of background of how we got to where we are today. So I'm gonna, I'll show you a little bit about that so you'll know that it truly is a community-based project. When people apply for technical assistance of the National Park Service, it's not a National Park Service project. We're providing facilitation assistance. It's a community-based project. So the work that you all are doing on this project is for the community of Africatown. And that's why it's so important. You're just doing God's work, I feel. I'm just gonna say it right now. So I think it's really important work that you all are doing. So here are some of the folks that you are assisting. They're in these photos here. They've had some planning retreats. And at their planning retreats, they came up with the mission of the planning team. And this might be important for you all to consider as you go about your work on the story map. The purpose of the planning team is to preserve the natural spaces, habitat, and waterways of historical Africatown, Africatown USA State Park, and those 10 miles of Chickasaw Creek that connect those two places. So you'll receive information about the mission as we go. Here are the other neighbors of Africatown that gathered on one of the points of interest called Hog Bayou. And good gosh, we don't have any funding. Like when they get Park Service assistance, we don't have any funding. The community didn't have any funding, but we were lucky enough to work with this group called Public Lab. And they brought out this big red balloon and they said, we're going to show you how to take aerial photos on a low budget. And they showed us how to tie up digital cameras to kites and big balloons with helium. And we kind of let the kite up high and we let the balloon up high. And we were able to take aerial photos of one of our points of interest. It wasn't very efficient, but it did work. It was a low-cost way of taking aerial photos. And Public Lab is a great organization to research that you all might be interested in working with. They always need outreach folks. They were created after the huge oil spill, the BP oil spill that took place in the Gulf of Mexico years ago. Scientists felt like the public was not receiving all of the information So we've worked with Public Lab. You all might want to do some research about that organization. Here are our community folks again. Early on, we were lucky to connect with Mississippi State University School of Landscape Architecture, and the students came and visited us in person and helped us out with some concept plans. In just a minute, I'm going to share some of those concept plans with you all. But I thought this was kind of cool because pre-COVID-19, this group that was based out of Starkville, Mississippi, 4 or 5 hours away from Mobile, Alabama, hooked us up via Zoom. And so here we are in a live broadcast with the university students there. And it was kind of cool that we were not able to travel to Starkville and they were not able to come back and see us, but they connected with us via Zoom and we were able to see their final plan. So that was cool. So let's see. This Africatown Connections Blueway is really, it's about telling one another's stories. And you know how we talked about perspective a few minutes ago? You could guess that these two people in this photo have very different perspectives. Their experiences being brought up in the Mobile metro area have been very different. And now through the Blueway development, we have occasionally we get on the boat together and we tell our stories to one another and we document those stories and we want to tell them through the Africatown Connections Blueway and the points of interest there. This is another photo on that same trip. And what's kind of interesting about this photo is the gentleman in the blue shirt actually is like vice president or something, super active in the national organization of Buffalo Soldiers. And he happens to live in the Mobile metro area. So if you have any interest in the Buffalo Soldiers history, we could introduce you to Bruce Mitchell. And then his cousin and the person who's involved with a project called, it's a brownfield study through EPA. The lady in the yellow works for the city. She's involved with that. So if you have any interest in working for the Environmental Protection Agency and any of the things that they do in the Africatown area, you have some connections there. And then Mr. George Crozier is a retired biologist that's very active in assisting the Africatown community. Let's see. I couldn't resist to just put another photo in here. This is just my friend Minnie. She was in the first photo when I asked about different perspectives. Minnie does not swim. Minnie was very afraid to get on a boat, but she loved it. And she has a lot of stories to be told. She was just very nervous, but here she is after the boat ride and she's A-okay. So I wanted to show you a photo of Minnie, and then that's Darren Patterson, another celebrity that you all might be able to meet. He's the president of the Catilda Descendants Association. So there are many, many descendants of those very Africans that were kidnapped from Africa and brought over on the Catilda that we are working with. So maybe they could be a guest lecturer in some of your classes, or when you come down to Mobile eventually, we'll introduce you to them. So let's see. Okay, before I go on, there are so many different connections, and I guess I needed to emphasize that word connections, Africatown Connections Blueway. You all are helping us make the technical connections through GIS mapping. And so another important part of this Blueway are the intangible connections. And so here in this photo, you've seen a lot of photos on this slideshow, but on the right is the gentleman that works with the Buffalo Soldiers, working and connecting with the chief of a local Native American tribe, Chief Terry Ladner. And all of those connections are important. You'll hear a lot about 1860 to future or to current times, but that land was inhabited long before 1860 and long before, anyway, Native Americans inhabited the area. So that's an important part of the history that we want to tell too. Alrighty, and let's see, here's just the big group here that you all are sort of working for. These folks gather, like I said, about once a month to talk about the Blue Way. This happened to be an in-person gathering, day-long workshop where we went into detail about what it meant to work with one another and make the Blue Way a reality. And we talked about our values, and the values are unity and trust and honesty. And even though you all are working on GIS things and computer things, those values are so important: unity, trust, honesty, transparency. And so I thought it was very important to tell you all about that. We like to celebrate traditions. And as you work on this project, you might be introduced to some of these traditions, and Joe might talk more about them. We celebrate the Blue Way normally pre-COVID-19 times through outdoor celebrations. This is under the bridge that you all kind of saw, that you'll do research on, I imagine. This is a tradition that we do every time. And the idea is we're getting ready to enter the circle of the elders. And it's sort of like the elders, notice there are not so elderly people, but folks who are considered elders in the community have taken the hand of a young person. And these folks are getting ready to enter into a circle and sort of the act of transferring information from the elders to the young people. Let me see, I think I just have a few more slides of other traditional things that happen in Africatown that's very important to the Blue Way process. So the elders have entered into this circle. You'll see the people sitting in chairs in the background. That's in a circle that we've made. And the people that you see standing around this table are holding vessels of water. And those vessels of water signify water that has come from each of the 4 jurisdictions that are working on the Blue Way. And these folks are now going to pour the water into one vessel that's sitting on the table to signify their connectiveness and that we're all one. And so this is really an important ritual that we do. We pour water into one vessel to show that we're all one. And I think early on in this call, before we even started recording, we were talking about how we're all sort of made up of, at the molecular level, we're the same. And so here we're recognizing that we are the same by this ritual of merging the waters together. These are more photos of the Blue Way. What's interesting about this is it's under one of the pillars that you'll be researching that holds up the Africatown Connections Bridge. And in the far background of this photo is the city of Mobile. Let's see, there's maybe another photo of the folks in the Navy. They've just played a huge role in this project, so we're very appreciative of them being there. Hopefully this will encourage you all to visit us. And when we do hold another outdoor celebration, it's always super fun. We do lots of different events, lots of music. I don't know if you've heard about second lining. That's a very popular thing in the places that celebrate Mardi Gras. And Mobile is the birthplace of Mardi Gras, in case you didn't know that on a historical note. New Orleans is known for it, but Mobile, Alabama is where it all began. And so we always have a second line band, and then we mix it with traditional drumming, traditional African drumming. That's very important, the whole musical aspect of our project. More kids learning about drumming. Okay, this is the ambassador from Benin. He's visiting the Mobile River. And our project is also about healing on many, many different levels. Physical healing of the environment, emotional healing from many, many things that have been wronged against the African people, against the people that have grown up and live in the community of Africatown. And so this is just a photo of another ritual called libations. And this gentleman, the ambassador here, has got he's throwing out, in this case, it happens to be an alcoholic liquid, and he's asking for forgiveness, and he's calling on the ancestors for guidance. And I think as you all move forward and working on this project, know that we are calling on the ancestors to give each and every one of you guidance, because this is a very important project, and we're very thankful for you all helping us with this. I show you the bell because there is a bell that exists at the Mobile County Training School. And when anything happens significant in the community of Africatown, the bell is rung. And so we'll make sure that we ring the bell in your honor. We'll have to think about how do we do that, perhaps virtually. One of us could go over to the school and ring it in your honor for helping us with this project. Another one is just to give you an idea that sometimes we feel like there are other powers that we can't control that are guiding us. So if you might remember, you recognize Joe, who you'll get to know in this project, and you might recognize Joycelyn Davis. I showed you a photo of her earlier on in some slides. We're at a pillar, that big concrete thing behind us is a big pillar where we hold our Africatown Connections Blue Way celebration. So look right above my hat, and there's sort of a watermark. Right, there's a couple of watermarks on that pillar, right? Well, Joe says to Joycelyn and I, wait a minute, look a little closer. What is that? And we pan in, and this is what we see. Does anyone else see anything significant about this watermark on the pillar? You can take yourselves off mute if you'd like to exclaim anything.
Like a little bit, can I say a little bit like the people's facing on the left of the picture?
Yes.
Like this side. No. Okay, this one.
Anybody else see anything?
Like a spiritual figure.
Jesus.
Yeah, I was about to say it looks like an angel because it looks like a halo behind the head and then like a robe.
Right? Okay, it's not just Joe and I. Let me pan back real quick. Here's Joe. This is what we saw, and we've had the celebration under that bridge now for a few years, and we've never noticed this. And Joe's like, what is that, as we're setting our things up? Well, right? So I don't know what that is. Is it a heavenly? Joe proclaimed it the guardian of the Blue Way. That's what Joe's proclaimed this, the guardian of the Blue Way, because it is sort of like an angelic figure. And what's interesting is the other watermarks along that pillar are discolored like this. This has a different coloration. And then what happened, what went further to convince us is, does anyone see it's sort of like a blue heron at the foot of this figure looking up at the figure? It's sort of like a white bird. In this area where we live, there are many, many huge, tall water birds. And this looks like a blue heron that's very prevalent here in the area. Anyways, we don't know, but we feel like sometimes the ancestors give us some ideas about, we must be on the right track here. Now, I'll have to ask Joe, I haven't been back, during all of 2020, we've all been sort of separated from one another. I think Joe's taken a ride under the bridge. We'll have to ask him how the watermark stands. I think it's still there. As far as I know, it's still there. It might be interesting if we can get on Google Earth to see if they can pan into it. I don't know. I haven't done it lately.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's still there.
oh, good. Joe's back. It's still there. I'm so interested. Now, I have a few more slides. I've been talking a long time, and Joe, I haven't shown any of the concept plans yet that MSU has shared with us, and I'm getting ready to talk about those. This might be a good break, a good pause, just to check in with anyone. Any questions or anything so far? Let me, I'm gonna go one more and then I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and let's just do a check-in and a stretch, because we've been talking, you've been listening for a long time. We've talked about a lot of rituals, heavenly bodies. Any questions? If not, no big deal, we can continue on.
I do have a question. I was wondering, would you be able to email Dr. Paget your PowerPoint slides?
I would be happy to.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'd be happy to. And so Dr. Paget, it's a biggie. So help what you and I can huddle offline to figure out where I might be able to upload it, you know, into something.
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll figure that out and then you all can check it out later. Okay, other questions? And help me, Dr. Paget, about a time check. How are we doing on time?
Yeah, we're good. Like I said, I think we started at about 1:40. And it's like I said, I like to break it up into about 1 hour segments. So we can probably go up to about 2:40. And then I'll probably have to go into our final hour will be you have to lecture
Okay.
on some things.
That sounds good. That
regular
sounds good. I've
material.
probably got about another 10 minutes left for me. And then we can, that's good. All right, I'm gonna share my screen again, if that's okay with folks, and breeze through a few of the concept plans. Let's see, let me just make sure I've got the right one. How's that look? Okay.
Good.
Okay, let's see what we got. I need to make sure that sorry, y'all, I want to make sure I'm controlling the right clicker here. Yeah. Are you all seeing it in presentation view?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it? Okay, good. Okay, I will breeze through some of these. They're just a lot of pretty photos, but you'll receive this PowerPoint, and what you'll be able to do after the fact is go back and say, oh, okay, that's William Brooks Park, which is one of our points of interest. And then, you know, that'll give you an idea about some of these points of interest. So Williams Brooks Park. Here's another one called Shelton Beach Road. What I like to show here is how woodsy it is compared to what it looked like back at Mobile River under the bridge. Let's see. Okay, these are the folks. This is the same slide that you saw before, but I have to show it again because they really helped us out a lot. These students helped come up with some concept plans for some of the points of interest. I won't be able to show you all the points of interest, but I'll show you some. Here's a logo you all might be able to make use of. That logo is not the official logo. We have another one that we'll make sure to share with you if you need. You'll probably want to include it in your story mapping. So just make sure to ask us about those sorts of things. Here are some before and afters. This is one of the points of interest called Africatown Baptism Landmark. Traditionally, this is where we understand that many of the baptisms took place in a place called 3 Mile Creek. This is, you know, it's a place off to the right-hand side. It sort of looks rough right now. This is a bird's eye view. This is hard for you all to see, but the green strip that's right in the middle of your screen is this area that we're talking about. And now this is current day, another view of it. And now what we're hoping is that we might be able to create some sort of boardwalk, a monument out over the water to make the place accessible. So that's the place of baptisms. Another point of interest, the Catilda Landing. This is the place under the bridge. So these may be familiar photos. Here they are. We looked at this one. This is when they merged the waters from the different jurisdictions together. Here's another bird's eye view. Those ladies were right underneath that bridge in the sandy spot. You can tell it's pretty industrialized around this area. That's Mobile River off to the right-hand side under the bridge. Here's another view of that very same area, but closer to the water. That's Mobile River. That pillar that we're looking at is just another view of the pillar where the Guardian of the Blue Way appeared. So that's the same pillar. Now let's check out what are some recommendations. Wowzer, what could happen? Right now it's just a patch of dirt. This is a concept plan of what could happen in this area with some ideas. Greenway space, patches of area to gather, patches, walkways and things like that. This is all under the bridge. The gray area that you see, the two pillars, again, that's the bridge, just to orient you. This is all underneath a very large bridge. And this is a bird's eye view of what could happen under that bridge. Areas of parking connected to your transportation hubs, and then improvements right along Mobile River. There's another idea of building out into the river, maybe creating restaurants in this area. So this is what I like best. You've seen this before. This is kind of my favorite. Check this photo out. Now, check this photo out. Same area, but the idea is that we create some sort of healing shoreline. And remember, we're healing physically, both human healing and environmentally healing, and then emotionally. We have a lot of healing to do. And so this healing shoreline is really important to us. Let's see. How am I doing? Oh, okay, I don't have too many slides left here. And so I think this, Joe, I didn't show a lot of the concept plans or the points of interest. So as we go along, the students can gather back with us on other days if you have more questions. And so I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. And I wanna show you this because this was taken around the bell. And there's Joe. I want to point him out. He's standing up there beside the bell. Maybe you'll meet some of the other folks. Dr. Padgett, I wonder if you're in here. Did you attend that collaboration workshop? I don't know. For some reason, I thought it was
I wasn't at this one. No.
Okay. January 2020, right before we kind of all went into lockdown, everyone. And so on behalf of all these folks are rooting for you. And these are many descendants of the slave ship Catilda, where all these folks are connected to Africatown, and we're rooting for you all as you go about your Maymester course. And sort of as a final note, that I encourage all of you all, to work together as you go about this. Just remember this African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. That's okay too. But we want to go far. And so we're going to go about it together. We might not go as quickly as we all want to, but we have a long way to go. Long way to go. So that's all I've got to say for today. And I'm gonna take it off screen share because it's probably about time for a little breaker for you all. We can take some questions and then take a breather if you need to. Questions for Joe.
Yeah,
and
we can do questions. Major Woback is back, so we can do Q&A up until 2:40. We've got about 10 more minutes, and then so I'm sure we have questions.
There's a
Now,
lot.
first,
Yeah,
to
a lot of
thank our guests. You know, like I say, there's another one. I guess it's not a proverb, but to say that the time is our most valuable human resource, because once you use it, it's gone. So this is about 2 hours that Major Woback and Miss Smith-Enser will never get back. So thank you for your time today. So please, if anyone has any questions, I know you all were, people had questions for me.
It's a lot.
But is it clear to you all now what we're doing? I know a lot of people were like, what are we doing? Is it clear now what the project is about?
Yes, sir.
Right, and sort of the why behind it. That's really what Joe and I wanted to give you, the why it's so important that why you all are so important. We're really in desperate need of some sort of quality map, digital map, story map of some sort. We don't have that. And now you all realize that this is a really important story to tell. And we don't have the tools to do that. And we hope that you all can do that.
And then this will make you part of the history book. This will all be in the history book. Africatown is like that the dinosaur that was sitting right over there and nobody knew it was there. And it's been discovered now, and people want to know about it. So you'll be part of describing what was found, and everybody will be able to watch the development of it in real time. You will be part of that real time development and documentation of the community that no one knew was there.
I guess we're being shy right now.
Like,
So
yeah.
much information.
Oh, we have a question?
just like it's do really know a lot of things about this project, but it's like sort of, I would say like sort, but for me, I still really confused like how to start it. Like I don't know how to say sorry.
How did it start?
Yeah, how should I start this?
Right, how would you say it? Would you, let's see. An active group of community members knew they had a story. They knew they had a story. And so they found out about our National Park Service assistance. And so it really, Joe encouraged a group of community members to apply. And then what kind of was interesting is Joe mentioned earlier, there was a core group of us talking about the story, the Catilda. And then this was before it was actually discovered. And so that's what makes the shift in our story significant. The group of community members knew they had a story to tell, an important story, but not a lot of folks really listened to the story until, so we began in 2016. And then I believe it was 2000, was it 18 or 19 that the official discovery was announced of the slave ship Catilda.
Right. Yeah. To take you back a little bit further, give you a little bit of history on that. When I mentioned the slaves being brought over here on the Catilda, and they were put on the land owned by the Mayer family, the people that brought them over here, and there was a lot of intimidation that went on for years and years from the male family, and it started when they put them off the boat pretty much, even though they didn't speak English, but as time went on, they pretty much intimidated the people inside the community. They told them not to talk about the story. Matter of fact, their families still don't talk about it. You can't get them to talk about the story at all. You probably give them $1 million, they wouldn't talk about it. I think it's probably written in their inheritance. If you talk about it, we're gonna cut you off. But they told the slaves and their descendants not to talk. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. And so you got a lot of descendants today who really don't even know about the story, and a lot of their ways were not passed down. Now, one reason why it wasn't passed down, because even though everybody there was slaves until they were set free, this group of slaves was fresh out the bush, so to say. It was different than a group of slaves who had been there, born in the United States, and their family was in bondage for years. But they were both slaves, but this slave was fresh out the bush. Now, just like sometimes kids, sort of don't do or say the same thing. They refer to the other slave refer to this group of slaves as savages, because they were fresh out the bush, and so they didn't like that. So they, in my own words, they tended over the years, they wanted to teach the savages out of themselves and out of their children, which is why they established the school, and they established ways of make sure that they sort of almost skipped a generation of learning to get to the head of the class. And so they didn't even talk about the trip, or didn't pass any information down. And so the stories, as a matter of fact, they were told by their quote masters to tell them that this did not happen. And so so when people brought it up, they would say, "Oh, this is an old wise. There's an urban legend. It never happened. It never happened." So when they found the boat, because we all knew it happened, because Henry Williams told us it happened, and we all believe Henry Williams, even though some people call him a crazy man because he was always talking about it. And so when they found the boat, that was proof that this had happened, that it had happened, and here was the sign that it had happened. So that's one reason why this is so important, because people are still finding out about the story. And when I came back to the community in 1975 after the military, as I mentioned in my portion, that the city was industrializing it, and the population was going down and things, and people were losing their land, losing their value. And my mother, who was born right there in Africatown, and I could probably count on both hands and toes that the number of times she actually went outside the community and took a trip. And so she had some land, and she was sick one day. She called me, and she said, and that was a meeting they were having at the community center. They were trying to move a trucking company into the community, and so she told me, she said, go to that meeting and represent me and find out what's going on, and don't let them take my damn land. And so that's what I've been doing ever since.
It's mama.
And so when I started it, I got my buddy from Atlanta, Anderson Flynn, because I knew he wouldn't quit, and we were saying, being a military man, first thing you want to know is how many bullets you got in your gun, what kind of gun you got, right? So you want to know what can you use to fight with, and so we figured out the biggest thing that we could use to fight with was the story itself. Put the story out there. People didn't know about the story. When people find out about the story, they'll say, "Hey, you need to leave these people alone. This is a treasure. You need to develop it." And so and so we sort of started from there. We put the story out, and it's been flying ever since.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank our guests again, and this won't be the last time that we'll see them. And so I think the next thing on the agenda is tomorrow. We're actually going to have a working session on building the story map. So we'll actually do some hands-on GIS tomorrow, so you'll get a better idea of what's going on. I guess the only question, in order to do the story map, we need photographs of each of the on-ground photographs. I guess there's some of them in the PowerPoint. Yeah, that's the main thing that we'll absolutely need to do that. We'll still be able to walk through. Maybe we'll put a couple of, I'll go through the motions tomorrow a little bit with them, with the class, so that they'll know what they need to do to move forward. And then what they're going to do is not just build the map, that there's a class, research assignment associated with the development of the map itself. So that's where the service learning comes in. There's service, which is is providing this technical assistance to the Africatown and the communities of Mobile and the National Park Service. But then the learning component is the research component. And I'm sure that the students see now that the whole process of urban planning and urban development is very complex. And I'm sure that they appreciate it. During this period of remote learning and teaching, among the comments the students have made is that, because of the format, a lot of the class content has been comprised of what the students call busy work. And so I told them, this is not busy work. This is real. This is not some assignment that I'm going to give you all to do just to give it to you to do to get a grade. This is what we do at HBCUs. This is our tradition. Our motto at TSU is think, work, serve. So service is just part of our mission at HBCUs. And I guess the only way you would find out otherwise, some of you will go to graduate school at majority institutions, and you'll find out right away that there's a different mission. Now there are some exceptions. You saw that, Oberlin College, they're different. They're very different. They also have a mission of service. And of course, you saw that there was a class from Mississippi State University, I believe, that has made a conscious. I'm not trying to just paint all majority schools with a broad brush, but in general, it's not part of the mission of those institutions. I'm just being truthful about it. So this is not outside of what we do. So I appreciate you two, and then Liz, we'll talk. If you have do you have a Google account, like a Gmail or anything like that account?
I used to, in the National Park Service, switched servers.
Okay, because that would make it really easy. But just we'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll figure out how to get the PowerPoint.
We'll connect via email. Okay.
Yeah. So and also, like I'll mention this again. Two of my students graduated last Saturday. Two of my research assistants. So I have 2 openings, and then I have an environmental justice grant that has 2 more undergraduate research assistant positions. So kind of checking the students out, and if anybody's interested after this class is over, and you show me that you're willing to work, we can definitely pay you through the summer part-time to work on this project virtually. And I can definitely take my research assistants to the site, to Africatown at some point this summer. And that should be okay. The president just announced that we're going back to live classroom in the fall. Thank goodness. There's no more Zoom. I'm so sick of it. But I can't stand it. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Thank goodness we have it, or else what would we do? Right? What would we do without without Zoom. I wish I had invested in Zoom.
Yeah.
Boy, that stock increased 3,000%. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, but thank you both. We're going to go into a 5-minute break here. I'm going to stop recording, and then we come back at 2:50. I'm going to finish up the lecture on land use policy, and land use control. With a lot of what we discussed here, you'll see when we get into the content of the last part of the lecture. So thank you very much. And this concludes the second hour for today. The third hour will start in 5 minutes.